welcome in first episode of On the Mic with the Daily Strike Media platform. Producing, hosting, doing all the bells and whistles behind the show. I want to thank Matt and David for getting behind the show. And we're in Naperville for today. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff. I am Mike Pendleton. You can follow me on Twitter at MP2310, Facebook and Instagram. I don't use it, but I'm trying to use it. It's at MikeP2310. Very quickly before I get to my guests, this is the new show. Whether it's guest or no guest, we are going to break down fights. We are not only going to talk about fights, though. It's going to be comics, musicians, business people, anybody that I want to talk to, you will see on this show. So think of me as a very, 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 very poor Joe Rogan. Very poor. With that, I know we just had XFO. I know we have UFC 236 this weekend. We'll make an announcement about that later in the show. I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of how this show is going to be moving forward. So I reached out to my guy, Brian Akins, Flying Brian. You might know him. He is my first guest. Thank you for being my first guest on this new platform. We have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah, I agree, man. It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm honored. Yeah,
absolutely, as am I, because the thing with you is people, if they look you up right now or when this show first starts, they're going to see you haven't fought since 2017. And we're going to get into all of that. But it's not just about, oh, you have a fight coming up? Oh, let's talk about it. This is where we have an unedited, full-out platform to talk about everything. So we'll start with, where do you want to start? Let me ask you that.
Oh, that was a twist.
Yeah.
I didn't see coming. Okay. Let's see. I guess the reason for my absence so far would be a good place to start.
Yeah, no. So, like I said, last fought in 2017, very close fight. A fight I think many people thought you won.
My coach disagreed with you. One of my coaches disagreed with
you.
Yeah, Coach Al did disagree. He did have the scorecards for Corey Jackson.
Wow, okay.
I was surprised too.
Yeah. I mean, everyone seemed, except Coach Al, to say that you won that fight. So that fight happens, was that HFC 35?
HFC 35, I believe, over there at Michigan City. But that was a good main event. I was pretty excited to be a main event pro fight. My retina detached 2 weeks before the fight, so I knew going into the fight that my vision was going to be impaired. I knew I had a feeling that my retina was the issue, but I wasn't for sure. And I had been training for like 8 weeks in my camp. I healed up numerous injuries. And then after I had a bruised hip, I dislocated my pinky finger. I busted my knee or something. I had so many random things happen to me. Just a normal fight camp. That's what any fighter will tell you. But all that healed up. And then 2 weeks go by. I was talking to someone and I was asking them, like, is there something on my eyelid? Like, it just looks like there's a bump on my eye. And you know how like when something's on your eyelid or like you have an eyelash in your eye, you see like a little blur? Mm-hmm. I saw that, but nothing was there. I kept messing with it. But it actually meant that like my vision was slowly going away. So I guess in sparring, a toe had hit my eyeball and it detached it. It was the final blow. So it was probably continued trauma to this eye. And it finally gave in 2 weeks before this main event fight. So
you had no idea, like, the moment when the toe hit. I mean, obviously that's something you feel.
Yeah.
But you didn't know, like,
I was sparring with somebody at MTC, and I don't want to give out the name because I don't want them to feel bad. But they threw the kick. It wasn't a hard kick. The toe touched my eyeball. And I was like, oh, that was, like, I took a second, hold on. And, just think, okay, a toe went in my eye, so give me a moment. No, that was what did it. That was the final blow.
That's great. So, I mean, before we go back to you, so now when you see, like, UFC 232, when that happened with Megan Anderson, does that bother you? Do you get flashbacks?
Hell yeah, that bothers me. Even Eddie Alvarez, this past fight, you saw his eye
the
on
busted eyelid.
Bro, like, that can't happen to me. I want to fight no matter what.
Right.
Like, I'll put that out there. I want to return no matter the circumstances or risk. I want to get back in there. I just don't want to rush it. But I see those posts. I'm like, damn, Brian. Like, you really got to be. You got to be ready. It's got to be business. Like, you can't mess around if you go back to this sport. And that's the mentality already. It's just that was my issue before, I think. It was all mental. Like, I let the mental part of it defeat me, because I'm not known for losing 3 fights in a row.
Right.
Decisions at that,
right.
Even close ones. One wasn't close. I fought Jose Martinez. He was on The Ultimate Fighter, undefeated. That one was not close, but most people didn't see that one. Just my coaches. So I'm okay with that.
Right. Well, so the biggest hurdle for you then is not overcoming the injury. It's overcoming the mental side of the injury.
100%.
Now, I know we're going to get into that, but from your perspective, and I've gotten to know you a lot over the last 3 years. Yeah. So I think you, and this is, again, part of the platform that we have now, where you can be like, yeah, it sucks, man, had an injury. Mentally, it was harder to go over. This platform gives you, and will give everyone, an opportunity to share their story, and we will get into that. So how long were you sidelined for? Well, like after the fight, like, I know you've now recently started, like, working. I know you're a coach, but when did you start getting, like, active in the gym again?
I'd say, because it was a couple months where, like, I couldn't do anything, of course. So it's like I had to wear a patch for only like a day, but it was about, I'd say, like 4 months till I was doing anything. But like altogether, the recovery for what had to be done to me, because I had 3 of these eye surgeries, and the first one was probably the most painful experience of my entire life, hands down. I still remember the pain. After that, they just got a little bit easier because I had 2 more, because it detached again from scar tissue. Mm-hmm. They have to go in there, man. They got to open up your eye. They got to laser it. It was the laser that caused the most pain, because you hear it and you can't see out of the eye while they're working on it, but you're just looking up and your other eye is visible to everything. It's just numb. Bro, it's like torture, like something out of Saw. Like, I went through that and I still want to fight, like whatever it takes. But yeah, I'd say like 4 months or so, and then I wasn't training. I was just kind of like, okay, I'll lift some weights. I'm not going to run. I don't feel like running. I have no reason to run. But like, I would lift some weights. I'd hit the bag. I'd look up videos. I would study. Like, I would still do those kind of things. But like, I didn't even want to, like, there was a little time where I didn't want to hear MMA. I didn't want to see it. My teammates all competing. I didn't even want to like be involved at all. I just wanted to take my time away.
Well, why is that?
I'm competitive. You lose 3 decisions in a row, and 1 that was controversial, 2 that could have been controversial. You're just in your head, you're like, what am I doing wrong? And then you get frustrated with like the mental part of things. You start thinking, like, I've had 14 months to think about my mental game, and it opened up a lot of things I probably would not have figured out if I didn't get injured. So I see that as part of the reason why this happened to me, because I say that's my weakest. I got all the talent in the world. Like, anyone will see that. You really do. And like, people tell me all the time, like, you let that guy beat you. You're fighting yourself, like, while you're fighting another opponent. That's your issue. And I'm so athletic that I got away with it as an amateur, messing some dudes up and like having some close ones, getting out wrestled at times, but like, I was always in it. Right. So that mental aspect pushes you that extra step, especially when you turn professional.
Of course. Now, I remember, now a lot of people don't know this, but this is the only time I was very ballsy with any local fighter. I remember we were talking after one of your fights. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I think so.
So I had the balls to tell you that you need to let your hands go more. Like, you need to just go after the finish. And at that point, I thought I was getting head kicked. I was like, my little scrawny ass is going to tell you what you need to do. But one thing I do love is that you were open to hearing what I had to say.
Always.
And again, I don't train like you train. I don't fight. I don't compete. But for me, that was where, when this whole show came together, you were one of the guys that was top of the list, because you're so open, because you're so willing to listen and willing to have a conversation. You don't get offended. And I think when we talk about the injury, when we talk about 14 months away from the game, 4 months you didn't even want to hear MMA, it's all real. This is all real stuff that people don't think about. Like, I'm not saying those close to you, but you have fans. I mean, you have fans. There's no doubt about that. And there are so many people that likely, they may not say it, but they're like, when's Brian coming back? I just want to see Brian fight. Like, and they're not thinking about the last 14 months. Has it been hell? Has it been hell for you?
Yeah, man, it's been hell. I'm pretty tough though, like mentally, but I'm currently even being tested now, like during this time away, because that was an outlet. MMA was a huge outlet. And like it's healthy to find other outlets and other identities. You don't want to identify yourself as one thing. I mean, that may be what like an acquaintance sees you as. Oh, that's the MMA fighter. Oh, that's this guy. He does that. But it's like, it's good to have other things. But I got so invested in the game. I put everything into it. And it's just something I fell in love with. But yeah, like when you have that much time to think, all those months, and you're injured and you're still seeing it continues. Like it doesn't stop once you're gone. It continues. Other guys are the thing of the month, the flavor of the month. Other guys are getting their fill. Younger teammates are becoming like into like they're getting to their area in the game. Like other guys are coming up. You're falling more and more on the sideline. Like when I was competing, I would see guys that used to fight and be like, okay, he fell off. All right, he fell off. Okay, that picture is from like 5 years ago. I feel like that guy, but it's only been like about a year or two.
Right.
Posting these throwback this, throwback that. When I kicked that guy in the head, like all that old stuff. I hate it, but like I'm still invested. Like it's in my head. I dream about this stuff.
So the message is, and I want to get this out of the way. I want to make this clear. The message is, you're not done. You're not done. You're not. Oh, that guy fell off. You didn't. Step back, right? It's just a step back.
I would, yeah, 100%. It's a scary setback because it's my vision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to be able to drive a car.
Right.
I'm 20. I just turned 27. Like I gotta have my vision. So like, yeah, it's a setback, but if I get back to it, my career, no matter what, I know is going to be shortened from this. The health of my eye is at risk, even just like everyday life. So like to go into a cage and just like punch and get punched, yeah, as dumb as it sounds to some people, that's what Flying Brian wants to do.
I love it, man. And that's part of the reason why I want to have you here, because there is a story, and I don't look at you as, oh man, he hasn't fought since 2017. I know your story, and I think this is the best platform to get your story out there for those who don't know, and then see your mentality behind it. Now, these are probably going to be the two toughest questions related to your career, and then we'll start talking about everything else. In these 14 months or so that you've been away, what has been the biggest thing you've taken away from you as a person?
Resilient, I could say. I'm mentally stronger than I give myself credit for. I had to find out in every which way, whether it was family, old relationships, other friends, like just every possible thing like has happened to me. Like I moved out within that time from my parents' place, more responsibilities, more bills. All of that comes full circle, and then you got this injury lingering around. You're not even doing what you love anymore. So there's like a resilience there where you gotta have those hard nights where you're just up thinking about it, and then you gotta wake up in the morning and continue doing what you're supposed to do. I'm not saying I was always on top of that. There would be days or there'd be weeks, months where I was like, okay, this is not working. Negative mindset, negative vibes. I would be wearing it, and then there's days where I'm upbeat, motivating people and doing my thing. So it's a mixture of both. You got to be strong, and you got to practice strength in your mind.
I like that, but I also got to ask, because again, we're going to get into it. You accept the fact that you are vulnerable? Like you are vulnerable to being like, yeah, I had shitty days. These days do suck. And I think for those who haven't known, because again, in this platform, on this setting, with Daily Strike behind me, I'm able to kind of show who I am more than just, hey, I'm talking to your favorite fighter. Hey, your mom's favorite fighter is sitting next to me. Your dad's favorite fighter is sitting next to me. Whatever the case may be, now people can get to know me. And if you've known me, you know mental health is a big thing for me.
Huge, yeah.
Which is undoubtedly like reason 2 why I wanted you here. Because we've shared. I don't like to, I'm lying. I get in my feels, shout out to Drake, and I throw it out there. 100% I throw it out there. But there are only a few, and for you to come on and be candid also means I need to come on and be candid. So there are only a few fighters that I can actually pick up the phone, reach out to, and you're one of them. And, you've seen my ups, my downs, just like I've always stayed watching your ups and your downs. And so I think a huge credit, and I just want you to speak on it, is being able to accept, like, even though the sun's out, not every day is a sunny day.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you got to get past those days where you feel like you're underwater. Like, hey, this injury hit me, and I thought it was a big deal. And then life hit me, and injuries meant nothing. I was like, okay, I might go blind in this left eye. I could get an infection, or this surgery might not work. Like, that was my priority number one. That was a huge thing. Now it's like, I'll be honest with you, it's at the bottom of my list. And I got people, so when you fighting, imagine where that is on my priority list.
Yeah.
As much as I love it, as much of a passion it is for me, imagine where that is now. Because when life hits you, it doesn't seem like a big deal when you got a detached retina.
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about when life hits you, and I want to go back to your fighting in a minute, but when life hits you, what has going through this injury helped you set yourself up for after fighting? Like I said when I introduced you, you are coaching now. Have you found, or do you know what that bigger goal is when you finally put the gloves down on the cage for the last time? Have you found that yet? So
that's big. That's a huge question. I'm still in the process, I'd say. Coaching and like meeting new people, motivating people, and instructing them. That's been huge. That's been really awesome to get that platform to reach out to people, and then realizing how approachable and like personable I am. That's cool as well. Like I didn't give myself much credit for that either, because I see myself as an introverted person, but there are extrovert tendencies that I do have. Like I get energy from making people happy or seeing people that literally look up to me. Like that still blows my mind. I still get messages from people that look up to me or people that I've motivated that I don't even really see in person ever. So that's a big thing about social media. It can be good and it can be bad, but the good side of it you got to acknowledge a lot, especially when you could just see someone posting pictures shirtless thinking, okay, cool, another one. But there's some younger kid out there, there's someone they went to high school with. Hey, you're the reason I pushed myself today. You're the reason I'm not giving up. Like what you're going through, which they might think they know what I'm going through, but they know like maybe 5% of it. Right. But that 5% is enough for them to be like, I'm not going to stop if he's not letting this stop him.
Yeah, and that is why, because you talk about people that you motivated and you didn't even know, or you may not see them all the time. I'm one of them. You know, hands down, there have been several times where I've run into you and I'm like, shit, all right. Chicago Cage Fighting Championship, when I saw you just a few months ago. Dude, I was like, whatever, I'm going to keep doing this MMA thing and whatever. And then our brief conversation, I was like, damn. You know, local fights do bring it out of me, because I will credit 99% of all local fighters. You guys always treat me so well. But it's those conversations that a guy like me, you know, people see, just talking about myself for a second, people see all this stuff. Oh my God, he did the Conor McGregor stuff. Oh my God, you talked to Leon Edwards. Are you going to have a 3-piece in a soda as well? Like all this stuff. And it's like, it's all great. You know, and even today I'm hearing people, dude, I'm so excited for this new show to come out. Blah, blah, blah. That's so great. That's awesome. And it's like, yeah, it might be, but you don't know what's going on.
Right.
You don't know not, and it's not a pity party.
Right.
And I think that's where I had to contact you, because for the last 14 months, you could have thrown yourself a pity party.
Oh, yeah.
And you haven't.
There's been periods of time. There's been little periods unknown behind curtains.
Bro, yeah,
definitely.
100%.
Definitely.
And, you know, I do the same thing. And for me, this platform, this interview is a way to show people, if you're a badass fighter, I'm going to talk to you. But if you're a badass fighter and an even better person, I'm going to talk to you even more. So let's go back to your fighting career and all this time off. You've talked about the decisions not going your way. When you take time off and you get through those dark days, those cloudy days, when you look back, what do you see in yourself as a fighter that you plan to change when you come back?
This is very interesting. No one's actually asked me this, but I've been thinking it since day one after surgery. I'm not happy about any of my fights. I've done some cool things in my fights, but after this time away, I look at any of my old fights, I'm like, that's crap. That's garbage. Which, I'm being a little dramatic. I've got some good fights out there, but then I also credit the opponent I'm against. Okay, that guy wasn't that good. His record was all right. he was too open. He doesn't know how to defend that. Like, I literally, like, I'm hard on myself already. Like, you're gonna be hard on yourself in any sport like this. But I look at those and I'm stacking myself up against like the tougher competition and like the knowledge I have now. The time away gave me knowledge I don't think I would have gained if I was still fighting. And that's the true like reason why I have to come back. I have to fight again. I know way more than I ever did before. Another thing, when you get stuck in a rut fighting, well, I did personally, where you're just fighting and like you're doing your thing, but like you think of it as such a big thing. Like, you're just going in there to fight. You're just fighting another dude. He has the same goals as you. There's no more to it than that. Don't make it over dramatic. Don't make it too intense. Like, just go in there and compete. I had this thing in my head where it's like, okay, the whole world cares so much. Like, GSP had a little talk about this with Rogan, I believe. Like, I went to the grocery store and like I thought everyone cared that I lost. Like, no, it's like we're in our own little world, the fight community. We're in our own world. We got our fans. We got people that compete with us as well. That's the group. Compete and do your thing. It's a personal goal. Don't think it's such a big thing. Like, don't make dramatic posts like this means everything, this and that. Like, it might mean a lot to you, but just go out there and compete. Just show up.
So let me ask you, do you think that back before, and this will lead into my next question as well, but back before, you cared about every single fight like it was the greatest, biggest fight ever?
Yeah, because like when you have an outlet like this and you take it so seriously, it's like it almost gets overwhelming. Like, you think it's such a big thing and then you underperform. Like, that was part of the mental thing. I'll go back on, like, I was mentally making it a bigger thing than I should have. And that's an issue that, I mean, a lot of amateurs have it. Even pro fighters still do this. Like, this is stuff I see when I sit back and I'm not competing. But don't get me wrong. You gotta, it's serious. It's serious business.
Right.
Your health's on the line. Your money, your livelihood, it's all on the line. But like, don't make it too big. Just go out there, keep it simple. It's business, and it's something you love doing.
I love that, man, because, you know, what I was going to ask before you said that. So what is life like as a local, like, regional fighter? Because, like you said, this time away, you took every fight like it was, you know, UFC 236, which I want to get your opinion on the main event, co-main event later. But what is life like, man?
I don't remember. It's been a while. I feel weird even answering that because like I'm not even doing anything. I'm seeing all my buddies, Bellator, XFO, Axis TV. I'm seeing all my buddies fight and do their thing. I don't even feel like I'm in that category right now. Like, which, yeah, I did fight. Like, it's been like 14 months or so, but like, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm not relevant right now, so I feel weird. But like, I'd say coach. I'm more of a coach right now, but I don't know. I'm known as the fighter. Like, I'm gonna be back, but like, it's weird. I feel weird answering a question like, what's it feel like being a fighter? Like, I'm not even doing anything. I'm watching right now.
Okay.
I'm a spectator, supporting my teammates through social media. Man, it feels so weird. Like, I feel like I should be getting ready for something. I'm just not. But yeah, I'm not relevant, so I don't know. I don't know.
I wouldn't look at. I mean, I wouldn't look at it like that, because even as a coach, you have relevancy, right? Because you're helping everybody out. I mean, doing what you do now, you're not helping people become MMA fighters. You're just coaching people, and you see Brenda, who's a soccer mom of 5, and she just wants to get in shape, and maybe she got a summer vacation. Like, you're empowering that. You know, and the reason why I asked that question, what is life like as a fighter, because I'm coming off of being at XFO this past weekend, and you've been there, done that, and you know how the crowd gets, and everybody hypes up, and people are yelling, "No, I'm a fan of Brian, screw you," and I'm a fan of this guy, screw you, and
classic,
that, right, and then it's like when you say you've treated everything, you know, all your previous fights like they were the biggest fights ever. The reason why I asked what is it like is because it's not what we see. And I think that right there, Brian, is why I wanted you here. You can tell the story of what these fights are, right? You can tell the story of what it really is to be a fighter, what it really is to be who you are. Because it's not about, hey, I got to fight, get your tickets, come yell at the dude who's supporting the guy I'm fighting. Dude, I don't have the best days. I got my ass kicked in training camp. I'm not driving a Maserati. Just because 100 people bought tickets to my show, that doesn't mean life's great. And I think, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but I think you're the perfect person to tell that story. Because what people don't know, they think they know. So when they see you out here doing things, they must be like, damn, Brian's living the life.
I've heard that many times, man. Oh my, I've had to shut that one down a bunch of times. I used to get that all the time as a fighter. Yeah, like, because I mean, social media, you post the cool stuff and then you're cool. You post the cool stuff. Oh, he's doing well. Post a motivational quote or picture. Okay, he's doing great. Hey, bro, like, I want to do what you're doing. 3 inboxes like a day about that. Like, even worse when you're competing.
Yeah.
So I don't, that part, oh man, I don't miss that part at all. But like, I'll still post because I got new clients, members, people that just like are just now meeting me, not as the fighter, but as like the coach and instructor over at UFC Gym Naperville, by the way, out there by the Naperville North High School. Check it out, guys. I'm there. But
beautiful.
Yeah, people
nice plug there.
They see that, and yeah, like I post these newer like throwbacks. Like I post those because there's people that just met me like this
Right.
past year, and they're like I had a kid ask me in my kids class, Coach Brian, have you ever hit anyone? Have you done a fight before? Do you do any of that? I'm like, I've done a few, showing them a quick highlight, and now I'm the coolest person in the world. So, you know, that's the kind of vibe that it's really cool to send that out there. Then people know, okay, it's legit. Like, I'm really talking to a really nice guy, and he also does this crazy sport.
Right. So you're almost, in a sense, like, it's kind of crazy because you're one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
But then you like go in and you just kick ass. Like, it's crazy. And, you know, you are, in my opinion, and do not take this disrespectfully, you are not a guy whose record reflects the person and the fighter he is. I think you've been on the wrong end of decisions, like we talked about earlier.
100%.
And this is, again, I'm going to keep preaching, this is why I wanted this platform. Because everyone could be like, Flying Brian. And it's like, what about Brian Akins?
Right.
You know, you see what I'm saying? Like, you get that there because everyone's like, oh my God, that's Flying Brian. No, it's Brian Akins. Flying Brian's in the cage.
Right.
But your fights, what, 15 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever.
Right.
But there's a whole like 23 plus hours still left in your day.
That's my Saturday night name.
Yeah.
That's my Saturday night name right there. Right. It's just a funny thing that you said, the record thing. Yeah, dude. So amateur, I go 11-4. And most of those fights aren't even like on the technical record because some of them are like the super, like, I don't know what you call them. What do you call those fights that aren't even on record?
Like burners?
Yeah, I got so many of those like back in like middle of nowhere, Illinois. And yeah, like my true record 11-4, and then pro 1-3. So 3 straight decisions, like lost. Like literally, it's a mental thing at that point. And like, a funny thing about social media that I'll go back to is like, say I comment on some MMA thread about like fight picks or someone trolling like a fighter that posts something. Anything I say, some troll will respond, oh yeah, Mr. 1-3, or oh yeah, what do you, like, I'm sure you're so good, or like, okay, Mr. Coach, who's never fought. Like, bro, I literally, there was like a period of time where I was like, wow, I'm really letting this get to me. Like, I gotta chill out.
Yeah, dude, you can't.
Oh man,
you can't focus on that.
That was like, that blew my, like when someone said that to me, I was like, all right, you know what, kid? Like, kid was like probably like 14 years old. I was like, oh, all right, well, I don't want any issues, Mr. Troll. Like, I don't know, what else do you do after that?
Social media, especially in this sport, is almost like playing video games, right?
Oh,
so like, if you play Call of Duty, you get killed by the
Xbox
9-year-old.
Live.
Yeah, and the 9-year-old's like, I killed you, and you're like, all right, kid. Like, oh, I'm gonna go on a date with your mom too, bro. And you're like, okay.
She's here right now.
Yeah. You're like, okay, dude. So, yeah, man, you can't. And I will always go back to this clip. And I know he's no longer the champ, but when Tyron Woodley was on Joe Rogan and Woodley was talking about the same thing, Rogan's like, you can't look at that shit, dude. You're the UFC welterweight champion of the world. Why do you look at that? And it makes sense. And, you know, for me, I feel like this is the perfect platform to people to get to know you, get to know your story, get to know your journey. Because that is the really shitty thing about being a fighter. Amateur, professional, regional, UFC. you're only as good as your last fight.
Oh yeah.
And on top of that, when people look at your record, and as a pro it says 1-3, they're all decisions.
Yeah.
A couple controversial, but people don't want to talk about that. And the thing I will say, and I like to find the good in the bad. You haven't been finished. You haven't been finished as a pro. You know?
Barely as an amateur, too. Yeah. One guy was able to stop me. One guy. And then after that, I started knocking people out. And so I needed that. And
it's like, dude, I look at, and we'll talk about him later, but I almost see you locally as like a Max Holloway. Only in a sense from a personal standpoint. Because when he lost to McGregor, he had to go back and change everything up. And he grew he's 20 years old.
Yeah.
Now look what he's doing. He's going for a second belt this weekend. He hasn't really lost I don't think he's lost since that McGregor fight. And the way he talks about things, it's not about, and this is a shameless plug, but I have a story on him and Dustin Poirier's fight. You're talking about two guys who just want to get in there and fight because they want to be the greatest of all time. But by the way, they fight in the UFC's most chaotic division with McGregor, Khabib, Tony Ferguson, Nate Diaz. So much drama on the outside that nobody looks at. You just have two guys that want to go in there and fight.
It's refreshing, yeah.
Not only refreshing, and that's why I look at you like that, because so many things go on the outside that nobody wanted to talk about Max Holloway after he lost to McGregor.
Right.
Now we're putting him like, this guy might be the greatest featherweight of all time. And he's about to move up to 55. The dude is a legitimate badass. Yeah. So you might be sitting here, and I'm not a therapist, but you might be sitting here and saying this last 14 months have been hell. But what if these last 14 months was everything you needed?
Right. Like what made me. Because for sure, like sitting back and just looking at it from the sides, it's like, wow, like I see it so differently. So returning to that platform with how I see it now is like, okay, there's no way, like I'm up here now. Like I might need to run some miles or something, but like right. I'm up here now, like thinking of it so differently. Like you have a filter on your mind when you're just on the grind, just going, just thinking about the next fight or getting to the UFC, getting the Bellator. Like you're just on that grind. There's a filter over you. When you're stripped away from everything, that filter is gone, and then you see it differently. I'm not saying I'm smarter than anyone going out there and doing their thing right now, but it's like you're forced to think about things a lot more personally, and like where your mind goes, like what kind of traumas influence the way you perform, or like things that you could have done. Like there's so much, man, and there's only like going up from there, especially if you don't let it stop you.
When we talk about you said, I will come back. Yeah, I am going to fight again. Do you think you're going to be more ruthless than ever because you've been able to lock down that mental side? That is something where, and when I ask that, it's because, you know, somebody gets knocked out or somebody has a loss or whatever the case may be, you start hearing them talk and you're like, oh man, you're going to come back better than ever. Because no one wants to be like, hey dude, you lost. So like, figure out why you lost and then be better, right? Everyone just wants to be like, yo, I can't wait till you come back. You're gonna be dangerous.
Right.
So I don't ask because you went through 3 decisions that didn't go your way. I ask because of the last 14 months. Do you think mentally you've been able to wrap it down where now you're gonna come back and you're just gonna be more ruthless?
Yeah. Long story short, like there's people I talk to about this, like just the comeback, and like it's been so delayed, man. Like I still get people asking, are you still gonna be doing this? Like, but there's so much in the air. But like, yeah, long story short, yeah, I gotta come back ruthless. Like there's no dancing around it anymore. You just gotta go in there and just pull the trigger. Like before, it was all about, I don't know, go out there, compete, look good, like do your thing. Like, yeah, I was serious before, but I didn't have it all figured out, like personally, you know, mentally. I had my own setbacks. After like taking this much time to think, even coaching gets you better. Coaching it and showing people how to do it the right way, you realize all the habits you used to have. And then studying up, looking for new things to instruct and teach, then you're forced to get better. So as I'm mentally strengthening myself, I'm technically getting better. I'm seeing where to place my foot, where to put my weight, how to move my feet. Like I'm doing all these tiny little things that I was ignoring as a pro athlete, going in there with killers. I'm a lightweight too, like we just said. That's a killer division. Sharks everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't mess around. You mess around once, done. Detached retina, busted knee, facial reconstruction, like you're done. You mess up once, you kind of like snooze a little bit, that's it. So yeah, I would say I come back more ruthless. This is not like a ploy to get you to buy tickets when I get back in there, but it's like honestly, that's just what happens. Like you see all your teammates kicking ass and just taking names and doing their thing, posting their pictures and like their posts, like getting the support. Like I'm seeing all these, like all my teammates kick ass in the this was it PFL.
Yeah.
Like they're just killing it. Like Detrell's killing it. Chris, like James has been looking good. Streaker's fighting in Bellator coming up.
Right.
Then Justin just defended his title over that last show they just had. There's just been so much happening where like I'm watching and it's like, okay, all right, these are the guys I have in my circle. It's like, yeah, I got the right people around me. It's just mental. If I go in there and I'm mentally sound, yeah, you'll see some more head kick knockouts or whatever else I feel like doing. I truly believe.
That's the beauty. That right there is exactly why I wanted you on, because, again, Flying Brian, that's what many people know you as. But when you rat down the mental aspect of life, I think it makes you a better fighter.
Yeah.
And you talk about your teammates, you talk about your coaches. I'm going to give you a chance to give them all the love, because I know you're a very big person on those around you. Every time we've seen each other outside of like an event, like there's been the UFC watch party, there's been the UFC events, every time we ran into each other, you've always made me feel like bigger than what I was. And I'll leave whoever I'm with to be like, yo, that's Brian right there. And then I'm like, yo, he just made me feel that way. And to me, you won't see it, or you may not realize it, but that little conversation, for you to point me out, what was that, 225 last year, in the middle of the damn parking lot where everything was going on at the UFC like fan event, you were able to like point me out of a crowd, which is probably bad because everyone can recognize me, but that just means everything. And to talk about it for you and to move into your coaches, you really care about everyone around you. So what have your coaches done for you in your time away that's helped you a lot?
I've had both my coaches, so MTC and MMA Stop, both of them have reached out to me a little bit. I've seen Coach Danny way more because he's a little bit closer, and we've talked. A big thing with him that I loved was we'd do a little bit of pad work, and we'd have a little talk about like when I fight again. And like he just, like I could just feel the energy. Like I literally told him after our last pad session, once I'm cleared, I got you. Like once I'm cleared, we're good. And he's like, I know, brother. Like I already know. Like he has no doubt. Like not worried about me getting out of shape, not worried about me getting fat. Like he just knows. Like we've been around each other so much, where he just knows what my plan is. Because if it wasn't for Coach Danny Moraney, I would not have turned pro. I would not have continued fighting. So part of me is like, man, I got to get back out there. Not only for myself, but I want to get him up there. Like I want to show him like it meant the world to me. It means the world to me that he supported me this long. Because without him, I would have stopped fighting years ago.
When you talk about that relationship with coaching, being now a coach yourself, how much does it matter to you? How significant is it to have that personal relationship? Because there are fighters like, dude, my coach he's so ruthless. He just beats me up every single day. And like some fighters just go into the gym, they work out, and then they leave. And there's no connection. So with you now being a coach, being able to help people who aren't a fighter, and you are a fighter, and you talk about your coach, how much does that having that personal connection mean to you?
I say that's everything. It's good to be personable. It's good to talk to people for real, like to show them that you actually care. Once you know they care about like your well-being and like what you make yourself, like that's when like you want to invest everything. Because when you can tell you're being invested in, you want to bring it all back full circle. You want to send the vibe right back, and that's a real relationship. Like the whole coach thing, I'm getting it down. Like I'm doing great. Anyone will tell you, but like I'm still when I hear Coach Brian, that's still something I'm getting used to. Like, I hear a kid say it, I hear an adult say it, I'm like, oh yeah, Coach Brian, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Like, it just feels like, I'm just doing what I do. Like, it doesn't seem like a title to me, and then I hear it, I'm like, oh wow, like that's what I'm used to saying.
Right.
So it's cool. And then I don't know, I just felt cool, like being able to hear that and then show off things that I've learned from being coached as a coach. Like, that's cool. That part, I think about that a lot. This whole year, I've thought about that like a whole lot. Like,
I've learned from my coach, and now as a coach, I'm able to show you what I've learned. So now you think, or your mindset is, look what I can show you because someone else showed me that.
Correct. Yeah. And that's, all the credit in the world to my coaches and what they've shown me. Because honestly, man, you know me, I didn't think much of my skill set or much of myself when it comes to like skill, but I've learned like, wow, I actually know some cool stuff. Like, I definitely put a lot of effort and time into learning what I've learned. And now that I've had the time to sit away and like sit back, it's like, wow, I actually put a lot together. I got to go back out there and show some things. And when you're coaching, you're making people happy and you're making them feel good. So like when I had that outlet, when I first jumped into this sport, I remember how it made me feel like during that time. And I'm seeing that look in other people's eyes and like the way they talk to me. That literally means everything to be able to show that even this short time that I've been doing it.
Yeah. And I know for you, you're going to say 14 months is a very long time. And I know I'm not a fighter, but dude, it's not that long. It's really not that long. So I know there are probably people out there like, yo, Brian, just come back and fight. Please, bro. But just come back and fight. We just want to see you fight again. Well, when they put their selfish, wants to the side, I think you should look at it like, dude, you haven't been gone long. I mean, there are fighters locally and, regionally, amateurs and professional and worldwide who get knocked out. You haven't. When they get knocked out, they have to take a year off. 8, 10, 12 months off. They have to do all that. And then you're talking, if they have to take that long off, they're probably just getting back into the gym 14 months later after being on a devastating knockout. And then you know how this game goes. Imagine if you get knocked out. Well, now if you get knocked out, now you talk about social media. Now you don't even want to be on it. Now you're about to start making fake accounts, just to see. Like, damn. So you haven't, luckily, in my opinion, you haven't had to go through any of that.
I prefer the knockout.
That's
all
crazy.
My heroes have been knocked out. All the people I look up to have been knocked out in a devastating fashion.
Really?
Or like they're on someone's highlight. So that, as crazy as it sounds, I'd rather have taken the knockout and been like, oh, that's not a good video. Whatever, on to the next one. Because then I'd already be on to the next one. But there's always something to gain from whatever situation you're in. But yeah, personally, I'd rather, yeah.
The decisions beat you up mentally a lot more.
Oh yeah, because you don't feel like you're truly beat in a decision. Besides the one I told you about,
right,
against Jose Martinez, I felt that concussion for about 2 months. So yeah.
So let me ask you this, and then I want to get into your story. Have you envisioned that first day back?
Yes.
That first day of fight camp back?
Yes.
What's that day?
That's heaven, man. It's I've actually I've envisioned the signing a contract with someone's name on it, and then it's tunnel vision from there and nothing gets in my way. That's the main thing I've envisioned. It's a scary thing because when I bring that up to people, they're like, I already feel bad for that man's family. I'm already concerned because I'm looking at your eyes when you say it.
Yeah. Because
I've going through so much just to get a crack at like my goals again, just to get a crack at what I want to do. And there's a risk. Like the surgeon could tell me, don't ever get back in there again. Like your eye could be done. Like if you get hit like that ever again, like there's a big chance of that. So there's still things that are up in the air that I just don't know about, and I've had to come to peace with that. Now,
if you get cleared and a doctor says, I'm going to clear you, but just know there's risk, you still going to fight?
Yeah.
Just don't care. I mean, you care, but
it's
bigger than just...
Yeah, man. And I've had conversations with like... it's always elderly, like some elderly people like that speak with me. I hear this a lot, and like I usually take it like to heart because I've heard it multiple times. you speak too well to be fighting in a cage against other men. Like, you, like, get into business, do this or that, like marketing. Like, I've had this conversation many times where people are like, I'm talking to you now, like, why do you fight? Like, I've had one of my friend's parents was like, no, you grew up, my son, like, you guys are nice people. You're not meant to be doing this. Like, this is not, you're not a mean person. But there's so much, like, in like upbringing to like childhood, there's so much that makes you into like a fighter that people don't see. No one's gonna see that molding on the inside. So there's so much that goes into it. No matter how I present myself, like, I'm a pretty nice guy. Like, I'm a nice guy. We already talked about that. Right. Like, it doesn't matter how you present yourself. Like, if you're a fighter, you're a fighter. And I'm a fighter. I've had to fight through many things before I even knew.
You just talked about things that mold you into a fighter. The things that people don't see. The struggles. I mean, without just being like, all right, just tell us about everything. I know from our personal conversations, the last 14 months haven't just been, yo, Mike, I'm sitting waiting for doctor's clearance. I'm waiting for this. I mean, there's been new relationships. There's been taking on more responsibility. There's been so many things outside of the cage. What has been the biggest fight? What has been the biggest battle you've had to overcome through all this?
I would say personal relationships. I'd say with family, that's a big one. Personal relationships with family. Like, moving out, like, once you move out and like go on your own. I live with my friends right now. Like, we have a place. Things change so much, like, for good or for the worse. Like, things change a lot. Like, for one, my dad moved across the country. That's huge. Like, that was a big game changer. And my mom, without going into detail, she's just not doing too well with a mental health issue going on. So having those things all up in the air while you're like, don't have your outlet, you're forced to dig and like look inside your soul. You're gonna stay up at night sometimes. You're gonna sit around daydreaming. You got to find that light and just keep going. Like I said, I had my pity parties for sure. I've had to been my friends, my current girlfriend. We've all had to have talks. Like, I've had those moments, man. Like, people try to like imagine what I'm going through, and most of them they just can't. The ones that know like more details than others.
In what sense? Let's go back to your dad for a second. In what sense you said that was one of the biggest game changers? How so?
He's like, I considered him like the main family I have left up here. Like, just with him gone, like, we're the only ones that were in Illinois. Like, all my family is from Tennessee. So once he left, and like my mom was supposed to go, once he left, it was that changed a lot, because like that was kind of like a lifeline. Like, I felt safe, reach out to him. Okay, he's not that far. Now it's like I reach out to him, he's across the country, and it's like, okay, maybe he'll get back to me the next day or this day. So like, on like, say like on an emotional level too, where it kind of affects you, where you're just like, you feel like you're just by yourself. You're just there. So you gotta be strong and fend for yourself for a little bit.
See, this is the beauty, and this is why I didn't want to jump into it right away, because this is where when people go, Brian, dude, I want to see you fight again. Oh, I have an injury. Oh, all right, man. I hope you feel better, man. I just can't wait to see you back in there. Every
Facebook inbox.
Yeah.
For the longest, yeah.
And they don't see this.
Yeah.
And they don't. And when I asked you, I'm kind of like a tricky kind of guy. So when I asked you, are you going to come back more ruthless? I wasn't asking because you've been away for 14 months. I asked you because I know the things you've shared with me, off the record. I know the things you've opened up to me about. So I know that when you step back in there, I know that first day, or when that pen hits that paper, it's not like back from injury. It's, and I hate to use what other people have said, but I just watched it on Saturday because it just happened on Saturday. You are like the perfect example of why, or this concept that Kevin Hart told Joe Rogan about. These are chapters in your book. These are all chapters in your book.
Yep.
And people don't see it. People don't see it. I know you're an open guy. I wanted to get your story out there and let people know there's more than just Brian has an injury, but he's not defeated. And I look at fighting in a very different sense. I mean, I know the guys behind Daily Strike Media, especially Matt. He's a big jiu-jitsu guy. He's a guy who can come in and talk technique and do all that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna talk technique with any fighter.
Right.
I might talk about what makes you so good. I might tell you I want to see Flying Brian back. I might ask you to tell me to describe what Flying Brian is. But I see fighting in a different sense because I know, because I'm able to get people to open up like yourself. I know that it's, yeah, dude, I'm going to be reflected by my record. Or I'm going to be reflected by my last fight. That's how people are going to look at me. And I haven't fought in 14 months, so people think I fell off. But what they don't understand is my dad moved across the country. My mom's not where I'd like her to be. I'm going through an eye injury. I'm in a brand new relationship, which, that's great, right? Everybody wants a significant other.
Oh, yeah, Jessica's great, guys. She's awesome. Hi, Jessica.
But that comes with its challenges as well. And so when you come back, are you fighting more to say, I've overcome this injury? Are you fighting to continue to write that chapter of the personal things going on in your life lead you to show people, hey, remember when you said I'm not a fighter? This is why I am a fighter.
Both, brother. Both of them. For sure, both of them. And it's going to be, there's no other way to put it, man. It's going to be in dramatic fashion, I'm sure. Or it could just be as simple, oh, Brian got the win. All right, he's back. It could be either one. I'm not going to be super, I just went over the dramatic thing that fighters do. But, it's just all about getting back on it and showing, like, oh, this is a different guy from, like, whenever the last fought. This is a different guy altogether. There'll be similarities. I still like to kick people in the head. I still like to go for the occasional takedown. Like, I'll have a similar, like, it'll be a refreshing, like, okay, this is Brian. This is what I remember, but he's got a mission. Like, he's on it. It's strictly business. He's not waiting to do things. He's just doing them. Okay, he's flowing a little better. Like, these are all technical and mental fixes that are going to happen when you're gone for that long, if you're on the right path and if you're strong enough to get there. That's it. And
would you say by going through all this other stuff, that's where those fixes come into play? Because you've had, and this is, if I've never made this clear in the 3 years that I've covered this sport, this is exactly why I love this sport. You've had an eye injury. You've been out for 14 months. And you just answered it very quickly with a yes. But in more detail, a time off isn't, oh, I get more time to work on my technique. Time off gives you more time to work on yourself. So when you say, this is what you're going to see, I'm just going to go out there and do the things that I wasn't doing before, it's because everything else you've gone through has pushed you to be like, I just got to keep going. And that's where life directly relates to the fight.
Yeah, 100%. You nailed that, man. That's the thing. Like, don't make the fight bigger than it is. Like, there's life, and then there's what you like to do and your goals. Like, just go after your goals. Like, don't be dramatic. Just go after your shit and get it. Like, being out for that long, like we've been saying, it's just, I agree with you when you said earlier, it's not a super long time. Like, 2 years is where you start to be like, okay, this has been a while. But 14 months, not a long time considering like a whole career. Like, one of my favorite fighters, my very favorite fighter, Michael Chandler, who's headlining the Bellator card, the card that I will not be able to be on, unfortunately. He didn't want to fight. Like, I'm guessing, I think it was almost like 2 years where he didn't want to fight. And now he's still looked as one of the greatest ever. He came back and just started dominating people and got the belt back. Like, he went through, I'm assuming it was like 2 years, I believe. I'm not for sure, but I'm pretty sure it was 2 years. Michael Chandler, one of the greatest guys to ever do it. And he just kept going. He just kept on his path. Like, everyone has to go through this. It's the sport. Like, that's how it is. This injury, though, not super common. Like, this injury puts a lot of guys out. Like, Michael Bisping, he was already like balls deep in the UFC, had the belt and everything. He's the only fighter I know that had this retina detachment. When Vitor Belfort kicked him, it detached, and he was already almost on his way out, so he didn't have to worry too much about it. But you don't hear too much about people going in there with this injury. Usually it puts guys away, so that's something I've had to take into consideration when I'm making my decision, and when I do, I got to think about all those things and how much it's worth.
It's another chapter in the book, though. Another chapter, because that we go back to that is overcoming, and that is kind of like you said, like we've talked about tonight, being a story and being, you know, something that people can look up to. There's not a lot of people come back and fighting.
Yeah.
You talk about one of your favorite fighters. I'll look at somebody like that Michael Chandler has fought. I love Eddie Alvarez.
Oh, yeah.
You don't think I'm worried to see how he comes back after that, where the top and bottom of his eyelid, or, you know, were both split open?
I couldn't believe that, man.
And almost perfect timing to talk to you, because now people are like, damn, Eddie left the UFC, went over to one, got knocked out in the first round. Hold on. You don't even know what's about to happen in the next 6 months of Eddie Alvarez's life.
Right.
And do you honestly think Eddie Alvarez cares about what you think? Or do you think he's more worried about the fact that he's a father, you know, the fact that he has a life after fighting, you know, the fact that all he just wanted to do was add another belt to the collection, you know? He wasn't like, oh man, the UFC, like the lightweight division is too much.
An interesting thing that I was watching Chael's podcast.
Yeah.
And in his opinion, he was like, Alvarez's stock went up in my book.
Yeah.
Because, like, how is he going to come back from this?
Yeah.
Yeah, people are going to say, oh, he went over there, got finished and taken out. His stock went up in my mind. Like, how does he come back? What's he going to do in his next fight? And when I watched that, I was like, I agree with that, actually. Because this guy is a formal, multiple, like, champion, like multiple organization champion. Like, you don't just get stopped like that and then, oh, okay, he's done. No, like, Chael said he lost his first in the UFC, Cowboy Cerrone, and then he comes back and wins the title.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, it could be another situation like that, just a different, promotion. So
right.
I agreed with that statement, like, to go along with what you were saying.
So is Brian Akins' stock up right now?
I mean, hey, I think so. I got more followers than I did before, and I had a lot before, and now I got, like, I say double that now. So, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, for sure. And for good reason, man, because I'm talented and I'm a hard worker. So it'll definitely show getting back in there.
So we've talked about the struggles. We've talked about the injuries. We've talked about coaching. We've talked about you as a fighter. Do you think you've put everything out about your story that you want out there, or is there anything missing?
No, yeah, that's I would say that's it, man.
Because now I want to have some fun. Because now we've got UFC 236 this weekend, which, Matt, I'll look at you since you're behind the camera. Can I announce what we have going on this Saturday? All right, so Saturday, and maybe Brian's going to sit here and be like, dude, me, I don't know what he's got going on. I am looking, so hopefully this is put out early this week so we can, if someone sees this, they can be like, yo, I'll do it. I am looking for a fighter, but I will be doing a pre-fight and post-fight show at Pop's Pizza Sports Bar in Roselle for UFC 236. One, because I've always wanted to do something like that. Two, everyone knows me now, unfortunately, as the Conor McGregor guy. But I hate that. I love it, obviously. Like,
that was huge for you, man. That's
it
huge.
Was.
Yeah.
It was. It was great. It was. And I haven't really talked about it, though. Just like there's things that you don't want to talk about. Right? Everyone's like, yo, Conor. I'm like, yeah. And I do that a lot. I've done that with you. You'd be like, yo, dude, you're killing it. I'm like,
yeah, you know? Relatable.
Yeah, and I don't. So for me, it's because, okay, that's great. What am I doing next? But when you go, yo, you did the whole viral thing with Conor McGregor and then talk to Leon Edwards. Yeah, no, okay, thank you for acknowledging what happened next. And then when you go, oh, you talked to Leon Edwards, and then a week or two later, you talked to Michelle Watterson. By the way, that interview coming soon. But yeah, so let's keep that ball rolling. People go, yo, you just signed up with Daily Strike. They're now producing and hosting your show on the mic. Yeah, and I guarantee this video is gonna do good for you, for me, for Daily Strike. And now I've got these great guys behind me. Now I want to do something else. Now I want people to respect my opinion and see what we can do, what I can do with a fighter sitting next to me. Let's break down these fights. I'm not saying we're breaking down ESPN Plus fights, but Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier. You know, the greatest thing about this sport, I don't know how you feel, but I was thinking about it on my way here. I go, the greatest thing about this sport is I can be like, guys, UFC 236 pre-fight show, post-fight show. We're going to preview the fights. We're going to talk about everything. It's Monday. People still got to make weight. We still got to have a press conference. We still got to have a media session. We got to have all these things. So right now on Monday, I'm like, Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier. I got to make sure everybody shows up to the fight on Saturday night.
Right. Stars got to align, man.
And that's where a pre-fight show, I can say, hey, we're doing it at Pops, please come out. Don't think that it's just like, oh, he's just going to talk about the fights. No, there's a whole week now that I have to get ready for. I have to wait for Wednesday's media session, for the inevitable Conor McGregor tweet about this event, for someone in the lightweight division to talk about this fight. There's going to be so many layers to pull back on that fight. So we'll do that Saturday at Pops before the fights. Well, I'll officially announce a time later this week. Hopefully a guest co-host with me, because again, I want someone who can talk about fighting the way you can talk about fighting. So we'll do that, and then we'll have a post-fight show. And the post-fight show is going to be fun because we get the instant reaction of what we just witnessed. And I don't know if you guys realize this, so me and you are going to talk about it. I'm just going to talk about the main and co-main with you. Even though one of my favorite fights on the card is Eric Anders and Khalil Roundtree, because they're both going to knock each other's heads off. Someone's going to have to win that fight. We have guys who are changing the sport. You said it earlier. It's a breath of fresh air, this main event between Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. In a time where that headline on, I'll use the two websites I work for, the headline on bjpen.com or the headline on My MMA News or the headline on MMA Junkie or any of your notable MMA sites, when that headline is not about the fight, but it's about the quote, that's the time of the sport we're in, where it's so much more about entertainment and so much less about a guy like you brought up, GSP, right, where we were just so excited to watch them fight. When you look at Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier, and I don't want people thinking like, oh, we know who Mike's picking for this fight. Let's look at Max. There's a guy at 45. I love talking to you on the same week that Max is fighting because I remember the Brian Ortega fight. I was the only person going, dude, Max is going to be Brian. And you heard like Brendan Schaub had said, oh, Max had a stroke. That's why he got pulled out of International Fight Week. And then you had people going, dude, Max can't get punched in the head anymore. Max isn't going to fight anymore. Right. And people just threw him to the side because you're only as good as the last thing people heard about you. So when that fight happened and Max went in there and the Blessed Express ran through Brian Ortega, who showed his warrior spirit, I was like, wait, you guys thought that Max being pulled from the card, you thought that was it. Right. So you thought, like, that's what you thought of Max Holloway. Okay. I look at Max Holloway and I think he is, whatever weight division, featherweight, lightweight, I think he is a prime example of you just have to live in the moment with these fighters. Yeah. And I said it to someone in text. I'm kind of ruining the article that I'm going to write. But when you fight Max Holloway, I don't think you're actually fighting Max Holloway. Especially if you look at his last few fights. I think you're not fighting Max Holloway. You're worried about if you're going to drown in your own blood. So as a fighter, when you look at Max Holloway, what is the biggest thing that you see out of Max?
Pressure, activity, pressure, angles, movement. He's touching you up. He's you see that video where you reminded Ortega to keep his hands up during the exchange? Bro, that's how you know the guy is just on another playing field.
That is, that's disrespectful.
It was like he gets in his zone. So like when you're in there, you're in a zone. Like I was telling one of the members at the gym, he always gives people a hard time. Like fighters, like, why is he so disrespectful? I don't think I like him anymore. Listen, man, you're in a zone when you're in there. Like you might not be a disrespectful person. Like what we said about me, I'm not a disrespectful person, but I've gone in there and like completely changed my mentality, completely.
And that's the beauty of a fighter.
And it's fun because like you zone, you click in, and then you click out. So like I clock in as a fighter, then I clock out, and I'm back talking to you like this. Right. Like, it's not a thing. Like not everyone's like that. Some guys just like to fight people because they grew up doing it, or they came from this spot or this area, or you just clock in. You're an athlete, then you clock out. Okay, now I'm talking.
So you see, and we'll talk about Dustin too, because I think Dustin, the one thing I like about this is a very, the main event of UFC 236 should be like the dad main event. I think Max does, but Max and Dustin both do so much when they're clocked in as a fighter, where you're like, damn, I would never want to fight those guys.
Right.
I am so scared for everyone they fight. I was telling people, I didn't know about the weight cut, but when Max was slated to step in for Tony Ferguson, I go, Max is going to beat Khabib. Not because I was confident, but because he just brings this mentality. When he punches in, Khabib does too, but there's something to be said. And before I get into what Max and Dustin mean to me, there's something to be said about the way Max does it, right? We look at the guy most notoriously, pun intended, known in that division, Conor McGregor, known for that one-shot power. He can put you away.
Touch of death.
Yeah, the touch of death. But as a fighter, is it more meaningful to you to have that touch of death or to piece you up, drown you, and then sink you?
Oh yeah, definitely the drowning and sinking. Touch of death is really cool too, though. But then you get reliant on it, and then it's all you throw. Heavyweights have that issue, and that's what you see a lot of. Like not all heavyweight fights are boring. Curtis Blades,
yes,
he goes out there and gets it done.
Yes, he does.
But that like people rely on that one shot power, and then when you have that abnormal strength to just put someone unconscious, like you don't. I don't think you would train as like intently as like Holloway would. Like it's hard to explain because you don't want to say someone doesn't train enough, but like when you have that power, there could be times where like Conor's gone in there with like injuries, like where he couldn't even like walk or like, and he just has that touch. So it's like, hey, he can get it done.
Yeah.
But Holloway, he relies on just, I'm going to be in your face and I'm going to strangle you. Like at this angle, that angle, you're going to be bleeding. Like that's just a different kind of mindset, It just gets you somewhere else.
Yeah. And Dustin Poirier as well. And as someone who fights as a lightweight, these guys both fought at featherweight.
Yeah.
Max ran through the featherweight division after losing to Conor. And Dustin has run through the lightweight division.
Yeah.
What do you think of both these guys moving up from 45 to 55? How has that changed them? I mean, Max, this will be his lightweight debut, but what do you think a jump up like that does for not just body, but mindset, confidence, preparation, all that?
It takes the weight cut not completely out of the picture because Max is still pretty big, but I don't know. You have less to worry about, and even for lightweight, Holloway's huge. Even for lightweight, he's got the length on people, so I think he'll be just as successful. Like the talent is pretty big at 45, but at lightweight, it's like, oh my god, like these matchups, all of them are barn burners. There's no single matchup in the top like 15 that won't be fireworks for him. So that's going to be a whole new legacy that he's building. Like he's going to just stack that on top of what he's already done.
It's a beautiful thing, man. And then you look at Dustin Poirier, who, we see Max is very like Hawaiian, like he carries his culture with him.
Yeah. Where
Dustin carries his family and giving back. So as a fighter who clocks in and clocks out as a fighter, how refreshing is it for you to see these two guys go to war? And you're like, they might be two of the best dudes to represent a division I also fight in.
It's nice to see, especially during this era of just entertainment being such a main focus and negativity being a main focus. Like you see Conor and Khabib on Twitter.
That was disgusting.
Taking it so far. It's like, damn, don't make it too hard to be a fan of you guys. Like, don't do that. But like them having this as the main event for an interim title, it's refreshing, but it's like it's also like the complete opposite of what like the title fight was before,
right? Which
is very interesting, and I like that. It's like it's good to have both, but one's pretty ugly, the other one's like super respectful, and that's what martial arts, that's what it is.
And it's gonna be a hell of a fight. And then we look at the co-main event, and we talk about martial artists and this, that, and then we have the last style bender, and we talk about a guy like the thing I love about UFC 236. If I could like be a cool guy about it, I'd be like UFC 236 # piece him up, because that's what Max Holloway does. That's what Dustin Poirier does. And all due respect to Calvin Gastelum, no one picks anyone apart, especially at middleweight, the way Israel Adesanya does.
Yeah.
when you see that guy, the Anderson Silva comparisons are allowed. What separates him from every fighter in that weight class?
It's his mindset, man. It's his mentality for sure. Just hearing that guy talk about anything, just the way he expresses himself about I don't know, the way he thinks. Like, I just listen to him talk in interviews and like his post fight. He's just having fun. Like, that kind of goes along the lines of what I was talking about. When you get back in there, you're just going into the fight and do what you want to do. Like, just go in there. You got the same goals. The guy across from you, just fight. So that mentality, it shows in the way he performs. He's having fun, but he's also like not holding back. His talent is on full display. There's no mental barrier holding him back from competing at his potential.
As a fighter, as someone who can see everything, you can see the good, you can see the bad. How good do you think Israel Adesanya can become?
He could be in the GOAT talk for sure.
Wow.
But I also believe that about Kelvin.
Really?
Yeah.
So Kelvin Gastelum, and again, I have nothing against Kelvin, has not had, I mean, yes, he beat Michael Bisping. Yes, he set himself up to get the title shot, but we're talking a murderer's row in the middleweight division. Like, welterweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, probably the three best divisions in the UFC's, organization. But what do you think it's been for Kelvin moving up to middleweight that switch has come on?
I think it was that weight cut for him.
Yeah.
Man, that weight cut. Yeah, because he was struggling at welterweight. But yeah, it's the weight cut, I would say. And just he's young. So, like, being that young, like, I don't even remember how old he is, but I just know he's young, like, for sure. Being that young, you dramatically just get better. And, like, you finally find your style. Like, he got in the UFC, well, the Ultimate Fighter, like, with a whole completely different style than he has now. Like, he still has those strengths. Like, he can still go on the ground and do his thing, get those chokes, but he's got that boxing now, that straight left that he throws. Yes. He's got that technique. Like, when you're that young, you get back in there, no one knows, like, how good you're going to be until you get back in there at that age. That's another thing that I've had to tell myself, like, when I get back in there. Like, you're at an age where, like, you just get better. And Kelvin, that's why it's like you can't count him out of this fight. As amazing as Stylebender is, he's just been getting better, man. But yeah, that in my opinion, that fight's a toss-up. That's a hard one to call. Like, I can tell you're edging towards Stylebender. Kelvin has that shot, you know.
Yeah, no, I like this fight. Now, I will say this: I was disappointed that a young Stylebender couldn't put away Anderson.
I have an opinion on that.
Okay, sure. What is it?
Well, you keep going.
No, it's just, look, I think Anderson's still one of the greatest of all time.
For sure.
But I think when you are being talked about and you are showcasing and promoting yourself out as the last Stylebender, no one wants to take that second risk or that extra risk to try and finish somebody and the chances that they might get knocked out, especially against a guy like Anderson.
Yeah.
So I do think Kelvin has a shot. And if I'm going to be one way or another, and honestly, I don't even want to say it because I do love Max Holloway. But I have such a good relationship with everybody down at American Top Team. Yeah, it's impossible to not like Dustin.
Yeah.
You know, and I said Eddie Alvarez is one of my favorite lightweight fighters of all time. I didn't even cheer. I couldn't invest myself into that fight. So when I look at Stylebender, the talent is there. But where's that? Maybe it's a title fight. But when people are going, you're the young Anderson Silva, I would almost expect you to come out and try and do what Anderson Silva does by putting people away. Your opinion.
So, like, they compared to the Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
One thing that he said was, that's who I watched before I got in MMA. And then I put myself in his shoes during that fight because I was the same way where I was like, he's not going for that stoppage. It was a respect thing, man. Hey, I could be wrong because we haven't talked to him, but I put myself in those shoes as like, just do it. I know that I could catch this guy, but just do enough to beat him. Like, yeah, it's MMA. Go in there and whoever it is in front of you, like your idols become your rivals, go take them out, destroy them. But for Anderson Silva, like him fighting that Anderson Silva like right in front of him, it could be a wow factor and a respect thing where he's like, just beat him. Just don't, which impresses me even more that you go in there against Anderson Silva and you're just going to do just enough to outpoint him, maneuver him, dodge his attacks, knowing the flying knee is coming at your face, knowing he's going to go for the hands down, head movement. Like, you could tell that he studied up. He knows Anderson Silva like a book. You could just tell. And I was more impressed by him not finishing the fight because you could tell he just wanted to do just enough. That's just my opinion, but I was impressed by that.
I like that because I think a lot of people said that about Khabib and Al Quinta.
Oh, yeah.
Because people were like, I mean, everyone's like, dude, Khabib could finish Al Quinta. And I wasn't saying that. I was rooting for Al.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I love that whole Sarah Longo team, you know. I love that whole team, which also kind of frustrates me because Weidman beat Gastelum, and I know he's had his own injury problems, but you would think the title shot would be there for Weidman. But I don't make the fights. I do have to talk about the fights that are made. So I think a lot of people were like, Khabib just respected Al. Khabib just didn't want to finish him because without Al, there's no fight for Khabib. And I felt that. I was like, no, that makes total sense. So I get that. I'm not counting Kelvin Gastelum out at all. I think UFC 236 is almost like UFC, which one was that? I want to say 206. 206. Another Max Holloway card in Canada when he fought Anthony Pettis. I don't know if it was 206. I think it was. Yes, it was. Because everyone was like, oh, Ronda Rousey's coming back at UFC 207. Conor just finished Eddie at UFC 205. Max Holloway's fighting Anthony Pettis for the interim featherweight title. Yippee! And everyone was like, yo, that was one of the best cards of the year. Yeah. Cowboy Cerrone head kicked Matt Brown. Max finished out Anthony in a beautiful fashion. We got introduced to the Blessed era. And I look at UFC 236 and UFC 235 definitely switched up a lot of things. But we're getting closer to the UFC's like heavy schedule. And I look at 236 and people will be like, oh, they're interim titles. Yeah, but let's look at the 4 fighters in those in the main event and co-main event.
Greatest ever in the discussion.
Yes.
For everyone.
Yes. And they do it differently. Like, Izzy talks. Israel Adesanya talks. But it's just fun. There's no trash talk.
It's real, too.
It's real.
It's all real.
It's all real. And I'm excited for the first time Dustin and Max get on that mic. Yeah. I can't wait to see what it's like. Because you look at 4 guys, you talk about a weight cut for Calvin. This is why I like Calvin. Calvin knows, like, hey, man, welterweight sucked for me. Middleweight's where I belong, so I'm going to go get what's mine. And I was supposed to fight Robert Whittaker. Yeah. He didn't show up. This is mine. Israel Adesanya is like, it's also mine, so we're going to have to fight for it.
I like that, too.
You know? And you look at Max and Dustin, same thing. Yo, these guys want to throw, dollies at windows and attack each other after fights. I just want to be the greatest of all time. Right. And Dustin's like, yo, I jumped up from 45 to 55 and I've killed everybody in front of me. I've put away everybody and you guys has thrown everyone at me. The Justin Gaethjes, the Eddie Alvarez's of the world. I've cleaned them out. What do I have to do? And for so long, the beauty of this main event for me, for so long, people have been like, man, if you're Dustin or if you're Max and you're moving up, you just want that Khabib fight. You just want that McGregor fight. That's the fight you need. Now, this is the fight they need. Max needs Dustin, and Dustin needs Max. Yeah. Because that's the fight that creates the opportunity to call yourself a champion. Interim champion, real champion, yeah. You can, make the difference between the two, but you're still a champion.
This could be one of the greatest fights of all time.
I really do believe that.
It's very possible.
So do you have a prediction on both of those fights?
Yeah, I'd say the prediction for... It's tough to say, obviously, but Max Holloway finds a way to get it done. I believe they both have that pressure, though. Yes. But Max has that reach, and I just think he's a little bit of a better striker. I do think it'll be a stoppage. Okay. Late in the fight, maybe 4th or 5th round stoppage, because they're both tough as nails, and Dustin, you got to really be on him, to get a win on him. So I say 4th or 5th round, someone figures it out. Or a decision. I can see a decision happening, but it's just going to be, I see it being a war. But whenever we say something like that or anyone makes a prediction like that, the fight's over in like a round or two.
Right.
So like, hey, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but like I truly believe it'll go like 4 or 5 rounds.
Well, I will say if it goes the distance, I will make this prediction because I'll give my prediction on the pre-fight show. If it goes the distance, without even seeing it, without it even happening, I will predict it is one of the greatest fights in UFC history. Okay. If those two guys cannot finish each other and they don't wait. There's a lot of fighters that wait, and we're like, this would be a great fight, and then they just wait. These guys aren't going to wait. So we'll get 25 minutes of hell in that. And so, okay, we got that. We got Max. Co-main event. I think I know where you're going.
Hey, man, that one's tough because I really couldn't call it. These are it could go either way. I could see Kelvin landing that clean shot and rocking Adesanya, or I could see Adesanya just piecing him up for the entire time, and then eventually getting the stoppage. So I could either see Kelvin catching him early or Adesanya piecing him up for like the entire 5 rounds. But I really don't know. Like, it's literally whoever has their night. That one's a tough prediction for me.
So we got your predictions. We got this story. As we wrap this up, and thank you. I don't know if this has been too long of a talk, but
this is great.
And this is for everyone, and thank you again, Matt and David and Daily Strike, for becoming a part of this. But I know when Matt and I talked, and I know when you and I talked, I said, look, I've got a bigger vision. This is not a 10-minute, let's talk about your fight, or what's going on with you in the last few weeks.
Right.
And I have told people, and you're gonna see men, women who aren't in the fight business come on this podcast, come on this show, and you're going to hear stories. I've reached out to people you guys have never heard of. Your average day people who have aspirations of doing more. And they're like, oh my God, I do it, but I don't know if I'll be any good at it. And I just go, can you have a conversation? Yeah, that's it. I'll bring it out. I think I'm okay enough to bring out.
Oh, yeah, you're great. You're great, Mike. You're great.
I wasn't saying that for the fish of the compliment, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But this is what this show is now about. So to take the attention away from you for 1 second and to give it to Daily Strike, with Matt and with David, you guys now give me a platform where I could do this and I could sit here in my room with all the equipment that I have and just do an audio podcast. And Brian and I could just hang out and we could just talk, right? But you don't see it. You don't see the emotion. You don't see when he gets to sit up. You don't see me wiping my eye 2,000 times because I don't know what the hell's in it. But you don't see all these things. You don't see the head moving. You don't see the body language. So I thank you guys for giving me this platform. We're all doing this together. We don't know how big this can go. Just like Brian doesn't know what happens. He has a vision, right? He has a vision of what's going to happen the next time he steps back in there. And he foresees what the message is now. And that's why I wanted him on here. So I thank you guys. I thank Daily Strike. I thank you, obviously, for being the first guest. This is just the beginning. I envision, when people are like, yo, what is this new show like? You've watched Rogan? Yeah? Okay. Eventually, hopefully, we are all making enough money to get a studio. And then I get to take all the damn UFC posters that are hanging in my wall. By the way, I'm just going to throw this out there because I want people to know me. As a single guy, it's not really the cool thing when you're bringing friends over and they're like, oh, there's a bunch of posters on your wall. You might be 12 years old. And who am I with right now? It's not appealing. But I envision that studio, that space, cameras everywhere, just focused on you or just focused on me or whatever the case may be. So this for me was the perfect person to have on because your story's not finished.
Appreciate that.
This story's not finished of this show. You have a second chapter coming in your fighting career. I've done radio. I remember you called into my old show downtown when I was at the media school. You were a guest on that. And then things went bad. And now I did the audio thing. And I will say as a credit, because I know in your own way you've had it as well, and a credit to Dave and Matt and all of Daily Strike, when you have to get up and get out of bed, like you as a coach, you have to be there for your clients and your classes. When I have to get up and drive to Naperville, it makes the show that much more important to me. But when the equipment's sitting there, I'm like, I could get to it. I'll do it when I want. Right. So to wrap that all up, this just means so much more. And everyone's like, oh, it's cool, you're going to be on video. Yeah, it's great. But do you know why it's great? Just like when people say, oh man, Brian, you could do so much more than be a fighter. And I think tonight you've shown people why.
Right.
Yeah, I can talk well. I could do whatever. You're a smart guy. Yeah, I could coach, but this is why I fight. And, this is why this podcast has now become, what it's become with Daily Strike. And to finish this all up, do you believe you'll fight in 2019?
If the stars align, yeah. If I have a green light in any direction, yeah. But we'll see, man. There's a lot of things to get through, for sure. And I don't know. There's a lot of responsibilities and priorities that have to be pretty much acknowledged and taken care of. And then with the help of my friends and family, we'll see where I get to. But that would be the goal. But who knows, man? I can't rush anything, but I gotta be mindful and precise with everything that I do from here on out.
I love it. Well, social media. Throw your social media out there.
Oh, Instagram, guys, at Akins92. That's BAKINS 92. Flying Brian. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to Daily Strike for producing and hosting the show. And Saturday, Pop's Pizza Sports Bar in Roselle. I know Matt's going to love this. I'm not going to be as crazy during fight night because we've got pre-fight and post-fight show duties. But I'm telling you guys, and you heard it from an actual fighter, UFC 236 sets up to be a remarkable fight card, especially with the co-main and main event. Everybody knows, because I've told it 2,000 times, Conor McGregor's the reason I got into this sport. So when people go, dude, Conor McGregor, you're the Conor McGregor guy. Yeah, it's great. But I look at a guy like Max and even Dustin, and they just they confirm and reaffirm why I'm in this sport. Because I get more excited for those guys. Those guys that were like, man, I've had this setback. Man, I've been fighting everybody, not getting my shot. Oh, okay, now two clowns want to mess around and act up. Now I'm going to go get my shot. I'm going to make the most of it. So, Pop's Pizza Sports Bar in Roselle, Saturday. I'll announce all the details. I'm at MP2310 on Twitter, Instagram, Mike P2310, and Facebook, just Mike Pendleton. If I may just plug some of the things I have coming up this week. The Michelle Watterson interview will be up on bjpenn.com. I will have the final audio podcast that I did with all the fighter interviews from last week. That'll be the last one up because now we have this platform. That'll be out this week. A lot of guys who are fighting on this card at UFC 236 you'll hear from. And then other than that, just look out for the one piece that I'm putting a lot of time into, talking about Max and Dustin and why this fight is a fight you should watch. For the same reason he said it might be fight of the year, one of the greatest fights ever. It's going to be a great time. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, David. Thank you, Daily Strike, for putting this on. And, this is the first episode. So we'll see where it goes from here. And other than that, we'll see everybody.